Hello, and welcome to my second installment of Resume Basics. In this module, we're going to talk about this resume strategy through the detail of your resume. So this is really the meat and potatoes of your resume, all of the sections from your past employment, your education, your skills, your hobbies. So my name is Deborah Carter, and I am a workforce development specialist and a librarian at the San Marcos Public Library. So let's get into it. In starting your resume, you are going to have your name in big bold letters. You're usually centered on the page. You're going to have your email address, and this needs to be professional. Look at your email and think about if this shows who you are and who you want to be seen as. If it's a less than professional email, quickly make a new one. You can quickly make a Gmail address and use that for your job search. And that might be nice anyway, just to have a separate email for your job search. So your address is next. Consider leaving that off if you're applying out of town. You don't have to have your address on the resume. Lots of people do. Your phone number, please double check your phone number. I know it seems obvious, but a recruiter friend of mine said that she can't count how many times she tried to call somebody from their resume and actually it was the wrong number. So just double check that everything is actually perfect as far as your contact information. Sometimes I see resumes that have things like their nationality, date of birth, gender, marital status, even a picture. You need to leave these out unless there's a specific reason for their inclusion. But generally, these are not even legal to ask for, so you shouldn't be offering them anyway. That would make the employer feel uncomfortable because it's not legal for them to ask that. And also, these are places of problems. So always leave those out. Internationally, those are often included in a resume, so a lot of my international patrons have those, and I always advise to just leave those out totally. So a simple example, there I am, Deborah Carter, an address, a phone number, and an email. If you have a website or a portfolio, and definitely a LinkedIn, if you are professional, you should have a LinkedIn, and I can make a module on optimizing your LinkedIn. And you can put that link right there. And employers do look at your LinkedIn. It's an important way for them to get to know you. It's a resume plus. It's a living resume. It is social media, but it also has a lot of important information about who you are professionally. So I definitely recommend a LinkedIn, and that's where you would put that. Okay, let's keep going. So I think that your personal profile statement is one of the most important parts of your resume, and often it's completely left off. What I see instead is after the headline, I see an objective. Those are, I think, outdated. When you're applying to a position, everything about your application, your resume, your cover letter indicates what you're applying for. When the hiring manager gets your resume, they're not wondering what job you're applying for. So I take off the objective because it's usually so cliche anyway. Your personal profile statement, on the other hand, really can give them interest into you, who you are. So let's talk about that. So you're going to avoid vague statements that aren't specific enough to carry weight or meaning. Your personal profile needs to be punchy, should outline your personal characteristics as it relates to the role you're applying for. And your resume should have a focus, whether through a clearly stated career objective, headline, tagline, or opening profile summary. So those are some choices that you have in that second section after just your name, your address. You're going to have something. Sometimes I see a summary of experience or summary of skills. These are good. Anything like that gives you a focus for the hiring managers to discern what you seek to do and who you are. So it's going to be a concise summary of your skills, experience, and your goals relating to that specific job that you're applying for. So this is helpful for any applicant to have a personal profile statement. If you have extensive experience, the profile can concisely explain that experience to the hiring manager right away. And if you have limited work experience, it can help you highlight the skills that you do have. So this is a great way of just starting your resume, getting their attention. In this, as in all parts of your resume, you're going to want to use active verbs. Action verbs indicate motion of some kind. In resume writing, they transform the humdrum into a dynamic marketing tool. So let's look at this example. I'm a hardworking individual who enjoys working. I'm excellent at meeting deadlines. I have 2 years of experience in business, and I would like to contribute to a business with my excellent skills and past work experience. Okay, a better example. A motivated, adaptable, and responsible computing graduate seeking an IT position, which will utilize my professional and technical skills developed through my past work experience in this field. I have a methodical, customer-focused approach to work and a strong drive to see things through to completion. So using action words for each job, some great ones like organized, orchestrated, oversaw, planned, built, developed, pioneered, diagnosed, expedited. So you're going to want to use great active verbs through your entire resume, but your personal profile statement is really your first chance of getting their attention. So that's really important to take a look at. Also, going back to that, if you're only modifying or tailoring one thing to your resume, this would be the thing to change, because this one can really show that you are a great match for that job in a more personalized way than the education or work experience. And it's faster to change too. So let's move on. Your education might be next, or your work experience, or a skill summary. As we talked about in the previous module, you're going to think of your resume as a triangle with your most relevant or important items at the top, getting more general or less important towards the bottom of your resume. So your education might be next if that's highly important to the job you're seeking and your personal relevancy, or it might be at the bottom if it's less relevant to your working skills, your past work experience. So let's talk about what goes in the education section. So the entries of the section need to be in chronological order with the most recent first. You're going to omit irrelevant and outdated education and expand on important education, like a big degree, and list some of your relevant courses. I see that overlooked a lot. You spent a lot of time getting that degree. Don't sell yourself short. Go ahead and look up the course catalog on the website of your university. Go ahead and remember those classes that you took. Jog your memory of projects that you did. And you can include those in your resume. Why not? That was important experience. You learned a lot. So yeah, your most important qualifications and accomplishments are going to be listed predominantly. And this is about the sections and also within them. So your big bachelor's degree is going to go first, then maybe a certification or an industry level credential that you have, and then maybe some professional development that you've taken, only if it relates to the job that you are seeking. So most important first. So generally, going back, generally you're going to be in chronological order from most recent to the past, but the exception to that in a way is that you're going to be listing your education, the biggest to the smallest. But within each section of that, then they're in chronological order. So if you've had 4 professional development opportunities, those 4 are going to be in chronological order from most recent to the latest. So here's an example of an education, Texas State University, San Marcos, accounting candidate. So if you have not graduated yet, you can put diploma expected and then the year. You should still put that. Predominant coursework, intro to risk management. You have your honors and other achievements like a scholarship in there. So that is the most important to the least. What else about that? You can put your GPA if it's above 3.4. That's the magic number. If it's less than that, just leave that out. But list any kind of academic recognition that you've gotten, activities. You really want to jog your memory of any time in your education that you want to highlight. So the education section is often the shortest, but you want it to make sure that it matches the requirements of the job that you are applying for. So a recent graduate would want to include more detail about the education. And this goes back to the idea of the functional resume, which we talked about in the previous module. If you are a recent graduate and your education is more relevant than your work experience, you'll want to highlight, expand that by using a functional resume. If your work experience is irrelevant to the new job that you're getting, you'll just list those at the bottom, but your education will really be highlighted through the fields that you have accomplished skills in. So if you need more information about that, go back to the previous module about types of resumes. So yeah, I think that's it for education. So here's what you all came for, employment and work history. This is really the meat and potato of the meat and potatoes. For each entry, following is required: the name of the company, the start and end dates, the month year format, the job title, and the main task performed. The format of that is up to you. Omit irrelevant and otherwise insignificant work experience. Do not use jargon or technical terms that readers will not understand, where I see acronyms. Avoid vague adjectives. Instead, use quantifiable information, adding proof to support the adjective. The reader may see adjectives as flowery, unsubstantiated descriptions that anyone can claim. We see that a lot. So adjectives can water down the resume and cover letter. So you're going to be really careful about those. You're going to use energizing job descriptions. So you need to include those keywords. We talked about the ATS system in our previous module, that applicant tracking software. You'll want to use words if they do have some software that's scanning your resume for keywords of that job, or the job requirements. You want to make sure they match by using the job ad itself. And if the job ad has less descriptives than you think would be necessary, you can look up that job at other companies, because they have similar, generally similar requirements, generally similar what you're doing every day, what skills that you need. So you can use, just try to find a job at a similar sized company in a similar type of work environment, and use some of the descriptors of that job ad to help kind of fill you in about what the job ad really should be if it was more fleshed out. So yeah, like I've seen strong management, skillful negotiation, effective interpersonal, and outstanding training skills. Those are what we're trying to avoid. Those are really watered down. We want to use active words that are relevant to the job ad. So you want to make sure your job descriptions are lively. You want to start out strong and sustain interest by emphasizing your key skills. So it's like a good headline. It's going to draw you in, draw the reader's interest in. And you're going to be very careful about your word choice. What I do often is I cut and paste the requirements of a job into a Word document. And so I have on this side of my screen the Word document with all of the job description of this job ad or another one that was found. And then I have my resume. And I make sure that if it says, 2 years customer service, that is exact, more than 2 years of customer service is on my resume. So if it's there, I like cut and paste, or I make sure it's there and then I delete that off, so that by the end of my resume, that Word document is blank. I have included all of those keywords and descriptions and job requirements in my jobs. So what you're doing is culling the job descriptions that are irrelevant and you're adding and emphasizing the ones that matter there. Because generally the jobs that you're applying to and the jobs that you've had in the past don't match exactly, but your transferable skills can match their requirements. So you're going to leave off the skills that aren't transferable, and you're only going to leave on the ones that are. And by looking at those job requirements, it might jog your memory into some special project that you did in a job. It might not have been your main duty. Maybe just once you did a big project, but that is one of the main requirements or just one of the listed requirements. So you're going to list that project, even if you're taking off something that you did every day. So the most important thing is what we talked about, the Venn diagram of where your past and the job needs of the employer match, where they overlap, and where they overlap are the only things that you're including in your resume. Otherwise, it gets watered down. So it becomes harder to dig and to find your relevant skills when you have so many things listed. So much more about that. We can even really do a whole module just about those, but we are going to continue for time's sake. So hobbies and interests are an optional category, but I like it a lot because it gives you a chance to have something more interesting to look at in your resume, something to talk about if you get called into your interview, and can help focus the employer on attributes of your personal life that indicate that you have the temperament or skills or IQ that they would need for that position. So let's read. Do not mention any irrelevant hobbies that don't add additional value to your application. Don't disclose political or religious affiliations. And avoid listing too many hobbies. When will you have time to focus on your job? So let's look at these. Here's an okay example. I enjoy skiing, hiking, playing football, bird watching, and going to church on Sundays. There's a good one of just too many, and then listing a religious affiliation. So a better example, so for example, applying to a business analyst job. So again, this is a strategy. Everything that you do in your resume is a strategy that's thought out. So here, if you are applying to a job as a business analyst, my hobbies and interests. I enjoy reading nonfiction books, solving puzzles, and socializing with friends and families. So all of those are attributes that you would need for that job, but you're sneaking them in through these hobbies and interests. Resume is not a legal document, so you're not going to look up your library account and see how many nonfiction books you've checked out. You have lots of you have lots of hobbies, you have lots of interests. Just list those that will highlight how you'll be a good fit for the position that you're applying for. So again, about matching the job and what they want and need to yourself. This is a T-chart resume, and this is off of a type of cover letter called a T-style cover letter, where you have, I know this print is very tiny, but you can see this is the word requirements, and these are requirements that the job is asking for. And then here you say, I offer, and you're selling yourself specifically for those requirements. This is what they're asking for, and you have all of this. And you can include that in your resume. It doesn't have to be spelled out like that. It can be more subtle in the bullet points themselves of your education, your job experience, your skill summary, your hobbies and interests even. So it's something to think about when you're doing your resume. It's your strategy overall, and it applies to every section. I think this strategy of all your transferable skills, as well as keeping it so that the most important is at the top, least important is at the bottom, will be more likely to land you that interview. So good luck, and please join me next time. We'll have a module on common pitfalls that I see in resumes. They're simple mistakes you can totally avoid, so you can proofread your resume to make sure you don't have these common pitfalls. Thank you again for joining me, and hope to see you next time. Bye.